All right, we're going live. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We're going to give ourselves about 2 more minutes before we get started. So, right now, if you can just go ahead and mute your mics, and then we'll be right back with you around 2:02. Hello again, everyone. We would like to welcome you to LMI's Insights, a monthly series. Before we start, I would like to ask that you please mute your microphones, but please utilize the chat to leave your questions, and our presenter will answer them after her presentation. Today, we have our PD Regional Analyst bringing you information on short-term projections for the state. Now, I'll turn it over to our presenter, and she will introduce herself.
Hey everyone, my name is Ashlyn Chastain. As Bylandria said, I am the Workforce Insights Analyst for the PD region. Today we're going to be talking about short-term projections, which cover the projection period of 2022 to 2024. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. All right, so just a brief intro about me, so you kind of get to know me a little bit better and who you're having present this data to you. My name is Ashlyn, like I said, and I have an academic background with the University of South Carolina, where I got my bachelor's in experimental psychology, as well as a master's in public administration from Clemson University. I am a workforce insights analyst. I recently was assigned the PD region, which consists of about 13 counties. And I've also been helping out with the projections side of things. We just published the short-term projections, and long-term projections will be coming up soon as well. So short-term, as I said, covers 2022 to 2024, and the long terms will be 2022 to 2032. So, what are short-term projections for those of you who don't have a background with it or kind of just need a little bit more clarification? They are projections that are produced and published annually for a 2-year projection period. Projections provide us with that estimated forecast data, kind of really regarding the rate at which these occupation and industries are growing, as well as the number of jobs that are estimated to be present at that time, whether it's an increase or a decrease from the current year. So I really wanted to highlight while we're here and before we get really into the data itself that there are two types of changes. We have our numeric change and our percent change. These are not the same. The numerical change that we'll see will provide us with insight into the overall increase in job availability associated with these industries, and the occupations over the 2-year projection period. Percent change, however, will allow us to see the rate at which these industries and occupations are estimated to grow over that 2-year period. So I did want to touch on this as well. There are a couple components that go into the projected annual openings for occupations. So they can really be broken down into three specific parts. One, which would be openings due to growth within these industries where occupations are very concentrated. The second being openings due to transfers between occupations where we see workers continue to explore different career choices within different types of industries and completely different occupations as a whole, and then openings due to exits out of the labor force. A lot of times we associate exits with retirements. However, this can also be seen when someone who is a retail salesperson gets a promotion and goes from retail salesperson to their first line supervisor position. They are exiting that retail salesperson position and now taking on that new role. So below in this table, we can see the South Carolina total number of openings for that 2-year period, and then we can see that broken down further into those three different categories due to growth, transfers, and exits. And then beneath that, I have provided a share that they have for the total projected change or projected opening as well. So we can see that openings due to transfers is our biggest share of that total projected occupational openings. It's 53%, and that is going to be where you're going to see the most, followed by exits, obviously, as we continue to see more retirements out of the labor force. So this is going to be our largest projected employment gains by occupation. This is where we're going to see that numeric change that I talked about. As we can see, the labor and freight, stock and material movers, that's going to be your biggest one for the projection for that employment gain. Um, so and we can also see that a lot of customer service and retail oriented positions are going to be on the top 10 as well. This is kind of really promising in a way, just because during the pandemic, we did see a decrease in those retail and customer service oriented positions. With those, customer service occupations, we're also going to see an increase in that home health and personal care aides as well. We can see that being number 3. And then, like I said, I mean, really over half of these you're going to see in the retail and customer service realm of occupations. Then we're also going to see the occupational growth based on educational attainment. I wanted to touch on this a little bit just because I feel like this is something that oftentimes gets a little overlooked. So as we can see, this is going to be the percent change that I spoke about. Occupations that require a bachelor's degree, we're seeing with the most growth, or projected growth, I should say, with 142.3%. Following that, we see that occupations that only require a minimum of a high school diploma or equivalent is going to be the one that's kind of following that up with 104.2. So that being said, we're seeing growth in all of these educational degree programs. However, we only see one decline or decrease, and that is going to be in some college, no degree. So this is going to be that numeric change again, similar to what I showed you just a couple slides ago, but this is going to be focused on the industry. So these industries are broken down by NAICS codes, which, if you're not familiar with that, that is the North American Industry Classification System code that just kind of gives it its own unique ID. So for this breakdown, I did it by 2-digit, which is just the industry sector as a whole. And as we can see, that healthcare and social assistance is by far the one to expect the biggest employment gain for that 2022 to 2024 period, followed by manufacturing and retail trade. A little bit farther down in this top 10 list, we can see the educational services, wholesale, as well as construction. But as I said previously, as we're continuing to rebuild our economy and just overall our labor force from the pandemic, those retail based positions and industries and the healthcare industries are really coming back and trying to bounce back to encourage a better and flourishing economy as we continue to move forward past those couple of years that we saw that decrease. So now we're going to look at the fasted projected annual average growth by industry sector. This again is your two-digit NAICS code. This is the overarching industry. As you can see here, information is going to be the largest. Now, I do want to note that this particular sector is relatively small compared to some of your other sectors like healthcare and manufacturing. So it is weighted a little bit differently. So it is going to be your biggest one right here. But it is still accurate. It is supposed to be the fastest growing projected industry with 2.3%, followed by some of those same ones we've seen, that trend of manufacturing, healthcare, and all of those good things. So this is going to be a subsector. This is going to be your three-digit NAIC code. This is just going to be a little bit more granular, kind of really honing in on some of those sectors. It's kind of like a breakdown within those sectors. So we see here a 10.6% as our fastest projected growing. That's other information services. So as we saw on the previous slide here, the information is our top sector to be projected to grow. This falls within that information industry sector, as do a couple of these other ones. A little bit of these can also go into that manufacturing or wholesale trade or transportation and warehousing as well. So I did also want to touch on if you're really interested in the short-term projection dashboard data type thing, we can also kind of give you that data at your fingertips. So LMI has produced dashboards so that everyone can kind of filter the way they want, kind of look at specific things that you might find particularly interesting. And we have it broken down where you can see these projections by occupation, by industry, or just the short-term projections as a whole on 3 different dashboards. And then each of these dashboards are fully accessible to everyone through our website. You can find them under employment projections. I am going to kind of show y'all a little bit of a little sneak peek on what these look like so you won't be completely blindsided if you decide to go check them out. But once you select dashboard, you can select which one you want, whether it be occupational, industry, or just the overarching projections dashboard. And these will take you to Tableau Public, where you can interact with them. So this is going to be your by occupation projection dashboard. This is kind of what you're going to see when you click it and be taken to Tableau Public. It's going to kind of give you that option to filter by SOC level, which is just another way to say a unique ID for a specific occupation. And then you're also going to get your base year estimated employment, your projected year employment, your numerical change, amongst other things. And you can also filter by a specific occupation as well. So this is kind of what you heard me touch on the past couple slides, and that's going to be where your NAICS codes come in. So this is the short-term projections industry dashboard, and you can filter by industry type, which is where you're going to see your domain, supersector, your sector, subsector, and all of that good stuff. So your 2-digit, your 3-digit, your 4-digit, and just kind of get as granular as you'd like. And you can obviously see that it has similar types of data with your base, your projected, your numerical change, as well as your percentage, and I believe growth as well. And then this is going to be your overarching short-term projections for the state, with just kind of a very broad look at it with your base and your projected values. So just to kind of tie everything together, our projection data is very indicative of an increase in customer service and retail trade occupations, but also in that healthcare realm as well, as I spoke about. The information industry, like I said, is projected #1 for the fastest growing, but it is a relatively smaller industry sector, so it is a little bit weighted differently. And like I said, these short-term projections can be accessed by anyone who's interested via Tableau Public, which can be found through our website through employment projections once you get through there. And like I stated, these have multiple filtering levels by SOC level and industry type. Your industry sector, subsector, and group, that's going to be your 2, 3, and 4-digit. And then your SOC level, like I said, is just a similar thing, but for occupations rather than industry type. Um, But overall, the projections are very promising. We're definitely seeing increase in pretty much all things almost, and we are on our way back to rebuilding these occupation and industries to what they were pre-pandemic. So that is all I have presentation-wise. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to shoot them in the chat and someone will let me know. I will try to answer them the best I can. And I also have my contact information here as well. So if you want to write that down, that's my email, and that is my work cell phone number.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for this great information and the breakdown of the dashboard that can also help us get to the information that you've shared regarding short-term projections. Now we'll have Alan, our supervisor and workforce grant manager, to come in with any questions that he sees in the chat.
Thank you, Alondria. We do have a few questions, Ashlyn. The first one, we see that the information sector is leading the industry in annual growth rate. So you mentioned one sector that it includes, but what other ones does it include?
Yeah, this is a great question. Information sector, I feel like a lot of people don't really know a whole lot about and what kind of falls under it. So the information sector, its subsectors include a variety of things, just a couple being the publishing industries, motion picture and sound recording industries, as well as broadcasting, which excludes the internet, as well as telecommunications and the data processing and hosting and related services, as well as, like you said, the one I mentioned in this presentation, which was just that kind of catch-all other information services, which is a very general sector. But for those who might be interested in what falls under that, that kind of encompasses things such as like news clipping services, telephone-based recorded services, stock photo agencies, etc.
Okay. Looking at your slide regarding your educational level by occupation, we see that the bachelor's degree occupation level is one of the leading in that category. So what particular occupations do we find there that are growing?
Yeah, so when we look at kind of some of the top growing occupations that do require a bachelor's, I found that the top 5 that were the fastest growing within that are people who want to pursue careers as logisticians, chemical engineers, proofreaders and markers, information security analysts, personal financial advisors, as well as operations research analysts. So that actually came from our projections data. Those are the top 5 fastest growing occupations that do require a bachelor's degree. So I just want to kind of give a disclaimer there that this is from our projections data, and that kind of really supports that.
Okay. So when looking at some of the other fastest growing occupations, are we seeing any significant increases in required job training or work experience?
Okay. Yeah. So I did take a look at those top 10 occupations with the growth rates as we saw in the presentation. Majority actually required no work experience, or if they did, it was less than 5. So it was nothing too, crazy. I did look at kind of that on-the-job training because I feel like that's kind of a portion of, acquiring a new job. That's kind of one thing people really worry about. But half of these occupations in that top 10 are reported to implementing no job training. And if they did, it was very moderate term on the job training. It wasn't something that was going to be continuous or long term, nor did they say it would be something very brief, like, a short term, a couple instructional video on the job training. So it's very, it should be very encouraging that you're not entering into occupations that are a little daunting and you have to have all of this on the job training, because there are jobs out there, as you can see, that don't require any formal work experience, less than 5 years, as well as no job training or moderate term job training.
Okay, we actually have a couple of more from the chat line.
Okay.
One is, where is cybersecurity? And you mentioned some of the top 5 fastest growing information security analysts were one of
Yes.
those. So I know that it's included in that for sure.
Absolutely. So if we're looking at it from that aspect, I don't have the projections data up in front of me, so I can't give you a solid answer. But just touching on cybersecurity, we can already see, like Alan said, information security analysts, in that top 5, it found itself at 1, 2, 3, number 3 or 4. So, I mean, it's definitely on the rise and one of the faster growing occupations or industries for sure.
Yeah, that's right. We've looked at cybersecurity before, and it's one of those things where it falls in several of these occupations. For example, computer systems analysts and other occupations. The information security analyst may be the only occupation where it's 100% cybersecurity, but
Right.
I believe that's maybe the only one we see like that. So we had another question as well. Where does the education level data come from? Does it come from employer postings, like job postings, or is it historical data for the occupation?
Okay. So a lot of times we can find that data. I'm just going to pull that slide back up real quick just so we can kind of have something to look at here. But a lot of those requirements or preferences by the jobs can be found in the postings. But that's not to say that historical data doesn't give that same information as well. I have seen when I look at job posting data in general that a lot of people are being more vocal with their preferences or requirements when it comes to educational attainment. But like I said, I mean, it's kind of the staple. The bachelor's degree, as we can see here, is continuing to be the front runner when it comes to occupational growth. A lot of those fast growing occupations want individuals with that bachelor's degree, followed by, as we saw, like the customer service realm, that was one of the bigger industries that's on the rise. A lot of those occupations that fall under there might not require a bachelor's degree, so we can kind of see that in the high school diploma or equivalent. So, I mean, I feel like it's kind of a good mix of both, but a lot of it nowadays can be seen in the posting and from the employer.
Right, probably coming from the short-term projections. I know the Bureau of Labor Statistics has basically typical education required for entry into an occupation that's related, obviously, to each occupation. And my belief is that that's probably where this chart comes from, is those occupations related by the Bureau of Labor Statistics classification. They go through from time to time studying each occupation and the educational attainment to get in those occupations, and then they'll put out basically a chart of what each occupation requires as a typical entry into that occupation.
Absolutely.
So I don't see any other questions, so thank you very much.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us and kind of getting to know a little bit more about our short-term projections. Like I said, I'm Ashlyn. Feel free to reach out to us or check out our LMI division as a whole. Like I said, check out our website. You can see all of this data for yourself. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach back out to me. I'll put my information back up on the slide in case you need it. But I hope everyone has a great day.
Yes, thank you again, Ashlyn. And remember, she's our PD regional analyst, and we hope to see you at our next LMI Insights, a monthly series. Y'all have a great day.